Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be doing a wrap up for April because now we're in May. The year is flying by before us. Welcome to Existential Crisis with Kate. Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly go through the books I read, TV shows I'm watching, and some films I absolutely loved this month. There's too many films and TV shows probably to get through, so I'll just pick my highlights. Whereas for books, we all know that I am the slowest reader on earth when I actually bother to read. But this month I finished one complete book that I started and finished within April, and that was actually over the Easter holiday break. And that is If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. This is a translation from Japanese to English by Eric Selland. And it follows a young man, I think he's about 30, who is confronted with the fact that he is going to die soon. And in true Japanese sort of magical realism, the devil comes along and grants him a magical power to be able to subtract one thing from the world in order to live for an extra day. So our protagonist, I don't think he actually has a name. Okay. Our nameless protagonist doesn't get to choose these things. So the devil says, right, this thing is disappearing from the world. How are you going to cope with it, really? So this is kind of, it feels like it, on the surface, it is quite a sort of sweet, frivolous tale, but really when you dig deep, this is generally just a very human story about what makes life worth living. The first thing that disappears from the world, I believe it was like movies or something. No, it was phones. And I was like, okay, yeah, I could deal with that. Like mobile phones, they're not really that essential to life. Yeah, everyone's glued to them 24/7, but you would just do other things. And personally, I'm the kind of person that I'm not actually glued to my phone 24/7 like other people of my generation. I quite often lose my phone and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, I'm doing something else anyway. So I was like, yeah, I could handle that. The next one, movies. Don't think I could do that. The character also contemplates coffee disappearing from the world. And I was like, yes, man, I wouldn't be able to survive that either. And obviously we know it's going to come to If Cats Disappeared from the World, because what is Japanese literature without a cat in it? And at one point this cat does talk. Again, what is Japanese literature without a talking cat? And overall I really enjoyed this book. I actually devoured it in 2 or 3 days. It's not that, no, I think it was 2 days. It's not that big, and it's just very quick and easy to read. But it also made me think, oh man, do we really appreciate life enough? And that's the goal of the book, is to zoom in, hone in on existence and contemplate what makes life worthwhile. And really it's the experiences, the people, the places that you see. And at the end of the day, I thought it was a beautiful sentiment, and I encourage everyone to read this. So that is If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. That was the only book I finished in April. I am currently reading a bajillion books. We're still reading Murakami's, Wind Up Bird Chronicle. I haven't actually picked it up in months. I don't know why. I can't explain it. I think I'm intimidated to get back into it because I feel like, oh no, I've left it too long. Have I forgotten everything that happens? But I haven't, because I know that the last bit I was at is he meets some random woman called Nutmeg or something, and there's been weird stuff happening. I need to get back into it. So are we going to say it? Because I swear at the beginning of April it was, I'm going to read it in April. Well, let's read it in May. Because actually, I have read some other Murakami short stories recently because of a certain movie, which I'll talk about later. Right, but the main things I've been reading recently, I won't talk about them yet because I haven't finished them, but it's fantasy, but specifically with characters that are elves, because I love elves. And I was saying, I think in like a book haul, that I was trying to find books about elves because I just didn't feel like there was that many in like sort of mainstream fantasy. Like, yeah, you've got like the Sarah J Maas fairy stuff, but not like proper, very Tolkien-esque elves. So I've started reading a couple of books. They're okay. They're not like fantastic by any means. One of them, it feels like it's wannabe Tolkien in the depth of description, but it's just not there. It's like Wish version of Tolkien. And then the other one's young adult with colloquial language but elves, and it's just like, ugh, this is a bit naff. I did start reading the other day Second Foundation by Asimov. Whenever I say Second Foundation, it just makes me think of Second Breakfast, and then Lord of the Rings invades my brain yet again. But I've only read a few pages, but I'm excited to see where this saga goes, because the mule changed everything in the last book, and I really want to find out where that goes. And I'm happy that we haven't jumped too far forward, that we're still following this very intriguing storyline, and hopefully we'll get to see Princess Beta again, because I really enjoyed her in the last book, and she was like the map essentially for Princess Leia. Well, that's what I think anyway. I haven't actually picked this up this month, but I'm going to use it as a segue into the best movie I saw this month, which I literally saw last night, and that is The Poetic Edda. I'm going to read this in May. Probably I'll start reading it later today, because last night I went to see The Northman. Finally, I've been waiting to see this movie since it got announced, because Robert Eggers, fucking sensational filmmaker, The Witch, The Lighthouse, now The Northman. It's got Alexander Skarsgård in it, who literally is male perfection distilled into one singular man. But not only that, like, he played Eric Northman in True Blood, which is one of my favourite TV shows ever. Was obsessed with that when it first came out, and pretty much still rewatch it now, and he is hands down the best character in that. But like, brilliant actor. And it's also got Anya Taylor-Joy in it, who is just phenomenal. There's so many other people, like there's so many people from other Robert Eggers films. You've also got Bjork, her first movie since Dancer in the Dark, which I think is a Lars von Trier film, which I haven't actually seen yet. But let's get back to Northman. Brutal, brilliant, soaked in so much Norse mythology, and that's one of the things I really loved about this film. I love Norse mythology. I think it's so fascinating, and the way they weaved it into the fabric of the film was brilliant. Like, there's a moment, I don't really want to spoil it, so it's not like really a spoiler because it doesn't really have that much effect on the plot. Like, there's this moment where he goes to find like this sword that's been prophesized that he's going to use to take his revenge, and he descends into sort of this little burial mound and goes to take the sword off of like this corpse that's sitting there holding the sword. It then becomes sort of very mythologized, like the skeletal being rises and battles him. But then the moment he defeats that skeletal thing, it quickly snaps back to him just taking the sword off of the lap of this dead corpse. Carcass is a bit too feral. Corpse. And then it just sort of is reduced to just a pile of bones, and it just shows the idea of the mythology weaving something so dramatic, so amazing, but the reality is that didn't happen, and I thought that was so brilliantly done. Like, this symbolic moment literally is him just taking a sword, but in his mind he experiences it like the sagas he probably heard growing up. And there's also like a scene where he is badly injured and he believes he's being carried away by a Valkyrie, but in reality it's just Olga carrying him on a horse. And it's just, chef's kiss. Other things, it's fucking brutal, man. It's dark, dingy, muddy, and the violence is quite intense, but brilliant, and loved it. Amazing movie. And like, it's the scene, there's like the scene where he invades a village. Oh my goodness, was that a one take? There's a lot of moments in this film where the camera is so fluid that it just feels like this really is unravelling before your eyes. You you almost forget it's a movie, and that's what I love about films sometimes, is they're so transportive. Like, it felt like I was watching a Viking epic unfold before my eyes, and it was real. I don't know how to explain it, but I literally was transported by this film, and I think it was brilliant. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. And obviously it's quite a well-known story, because the story was the inspiration from Hamlet, which, of all the Shakespeare plays I've read so far, is still my personal favourite. So again, I loved that. I would say it's possibly a solid 5-star movie. If you love mythology, art house cinema, a bit of violence and action, and like Viking stories in general. So go and see it. Other brilliant movie that I saw, there's quite a few brilliant movies. So over the Easter weekend, I made my sister watch a couple of foreign films. So we watched The Wailing, which is a Korean horror movie. Bloody bizarre, that one. I felt like as the film was going on, I was getting more and more confused. That's what I love about Korean cinema, is nothing is ever what it seems. Like, the twists, the turns, the sort of narrative ambiguities in those films are just brilliant. And the ending of this one, I was just like, what? So was all this a lie? Was that person really like a demon devil thing? I haven't really explained what it's about, but basically batshit crazy stuff starts happening in a small town in Korea. Demonic devil sort of plague, kind of like skin disease makes you crazed, and then you murder your whole family. So like there's a lot of shamanism in this film. Like some of the scenes in this are very intense because of like these shamanistic rituals that happen, and there's like quite quiet scenes, and then suddenly you get the clash of all the instruments and the singing and the dancing. So it's like quite a discordant energy throughout the film, because you're just suddenly shocked by something, then there's like really loud noise. It's very disorientating, which obviously adds to the tension, the horror. Brilliant movie, but I'm still confused about it. And there was this scene at the end that still haunts me a bit, of like this weird demonic thing taking photos of this man, and oh god, that lives in my mind now, and I'm like scared. Not really. It's fine. And then the other film I made my sister watch is Another Round or Truck, which is Thomas Vinterberg's Oscar-winning movie about 4 middle-aged men who decide that life is shit, let's get drunk. It kind of reminds me of that Charles Baudelaire quote, where it's like, in life basically be drunk, but be drunk with poetry, just life in itself, not necessarily drunk, but They kind of take this premise from I think it's a Norwegian philosopher or something, about the idea that if you had a certain level of alcohol in your blood permanently, then you would be much happier. So they use it as a social experiment. Things get out of hand, things get rowdy, and Mads Mikkelsen is cinematic perfection in one of the best endings to a movie ever. The whole dance scene, if you have seen the film, you know the scene I'm talking about. It's just beautiful, amazing, and truly the film is just like a celebration of life, of what it means to literally be alive and cherishing the people around you, the moments, the sort of fervour of being in existence, and that don't settle for just mundanity and, I don't know, the beats of life, like go to school, get a job, get a family, have a child sort of thing. Explore and sort of break the boundaries of what's expected, and maybe you'll find some magic. But yeah, I love that movie. I think it's like the second time I've seen it, but yeah, it's just as good on a rewatch. So yeah, I made her watch those movies, and I think she enjoyed them. Like, she definitely we did go a bit crazy after Another Round. We decided to get, I was like drinking wine that night, and then I think she drank a bit of wine, and so we went outside in like the pitch black in the middle of the countryside and just had like a dance around in the dark, talking about stuff and just being a bit weird. Then like we ran down the road, touched a church, and then ran back up or something. What a life. Listening to that song. So it's weird things like this, like just weird moments with other people in your life is magic, and you should cherish weird moments. with people you love. Next film we'll talk about is Drive My Car by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, which is based on a Murakami short story. And I feel like Murakami just is cinematic, man. But specifically, his short stories might be better suited to film than his full-length novels because they're just massive and crazy. And like this short story, I think because it's collected in the book Men Without Women, it's like 30 something pages. Not much, but this was like a whole 3-hour movie. Obviously it was expanded. A lot of it was changed. I recently reread the short story just to compare the two, and there's a lot of differences, but like the DNA of the story is still there and shines through. But this is like a slow burn of a movie, a meditative of, again, like what is it with me watching humanistic films at the moment, of just like studies of what it means to be alive, relationships, grief, and sort of growing as a person and confronting fears. But the premise of Drive My Car is that a stage actor and director loses his wife and sort of has a mental breakdown on stage and decides that he can't play a part, which is Uncle Vanya in the Chekhov play Uncle Vanya, which has very great parallels to the story itself. Like, I think that's magic. And really, if you're writing a movie and you're including literature or art, it has to have a parallel, because otherwise what's the point? But I just love when it's so interconnected, intertwined, and it feels very sort of filled with tension of how things mirror each other in movies from the literature they're exploring. But anyway, let's get back to the premise. So he decides that in his next production of Uncle Vanya, he's not going to play the lead character because he can't do it anymore. He's afraid of the part and the sort of gaping hole left within him since the departure of his wife, who had a sudden brain aneurysm, which is one of my biggest fears in life. Thanks, Hamaguchi, for reawakening that scary thought that one day you might just die. Anyway, back to the movie again. And in a bizarre sort of a very Murakami twist, his wife is a bit of a, I don't know, she's a little bit more mysterious than your average woman. The mystique of a Murakami woman, hey? And she has affairs with other men, and one of these men is another actor who played a role in her TV drama because she was a screenwriter. And so then, in true, again, Murakami protagonist style, he casts this young actor in his own play, almost as if he wants to torture himself, or just get to the bottom of the fact of, why did my wife decide to cheat on me with you? These characters all sort of circle each other. There's a driver, hence Drive My Car, because the character is told he can't drive his own car to set, to like the stage, so he has to have a driver. And at the beginning he is sort of very against it, but he warms to her because she is the same age that his daughter would have been if she hadn't have died as a child. So there's like very complex emotions explored in this film. There's the grief of his wife that's more fresh, because I think it's only like 2 or 3 years ago that it happened. But then there's also this deep well of sadness because this woman who is driving him around and like spending a lot of time with him would have been the same age as his daughter, and that would stir up a lot of emotions. Then you're also doing a play that's all about emotions and family and turmoil. It's just cinematic perfection, and some of the shots in this movie are just beautiful, like of them smoking in the car but like having it out of the sunroof, like that is an iconic moment. Just beautiful film. I loved it so much. Yes, it's 3 hours, but you don't feel that time at all. And no wonder it won Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film, because it is brilliant, sensational, loved every moment of it. Go watch it. And I think the more of the stories, read more Murakami. So 2 movies that I've seen this month have made me realise that I need to pick up related books. So that's The Northman and The Prose Edda, and that is Drive My Car and more Murakami, and finishing The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. Because I was enjoying the book and I don't know what happened. I'm weird. We're all weird. Yeah, so... Oh, and one last film I did watch was Jurassic Park, which is chef's kiss. Literally my childhood in a nutshell. Love that movie so much, and I think it is an example of perfect storytelling. Like, there is not a beat that Spielberg misses in that movie. Like, I believe that Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park has one of the best character arcs ever in cinema. And the reason is, at the beginning of the film, he hates children. It's like, they smell, they're disgusting, blah, 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 blah. And then he bonds so beautifully with his two kids because he just feels this need and this very human drive to save them from this fucking living hell that they experience in the dinosaur theme park. And at the end, when they're on the little helicopter and they're all just snuggling with Dr. Alan Grant, and I'm just like, oh, that's so sweet. But that is such a beautiful character arc. When I was a kid, I didn't really understand all these sort of cinematic moments in the film. But when you get older and you sort of study stories, like I did an English literature degree, and I was picking bits out that was like, oh, this is so symbolic. Like, even at the beginning, when they first go into the island, I said to my sister, even the way they do up their seat belts tells you about the fucking characters. It's ridiculous. Like, there's casual Ian Malcolm who just slots in, is like chilled as fuck. What is he like? He's chilled as fuck. He's like a very suave, sort of, almost, well, he's quite arrogant, isn't he? So just the way he slots his seatbelt in quite easily. Yeah, I'm cool and I know it. There's Alan Grant who doesn't fucking know how to do it, so he just ties it, so it shows he's resourceful and that he can think quickly on his feet. He couldn't do it, so he just quickly tied it. What happens when chaos ensues in the park? He's resourceful, he saves the kids, he takes them all the way back to the visitors centre. Resourceful Dr. Alan Grant. And then you've got the nervous bloody lawyer who's just money obsessed, doesn't give a shit about anyone else. But you can see the way he does his seatbelt is very like clumsy and shaky because like there's turbulence in the aircraft. So you know he's a coward from the way he just jitterly does his seatbelt up. And I was just like, oh my god, am I pretentious? Because I've just analysed some of the characteristics. And I think to myself, am I just being ridiculous or was this deliberate? Like, come on. I guess it's showing, not telling, which is like the backbone of narratives. Show us these characteristics and how these characters will evolve through visuals rather than telling us what they're like. And yeah, just, oh man, Jurassic Park. I'm really looking forward to Jurassic World Dominion, is it, that comes out this year? Mainly because of the original trio are back. The first two Jurassic Worlds, yeah, whatever, they were okay. Sort of cinematic blockbuster rehashes of a beloved franchise of my childhood. But as soon as I saw that they were going to be in it, I was like, yes, I have to go and see this movie. And I saw the trailer, and kid you not, because I'm just a fucking pathetic human sometimes, a tear came to my eye when I saw them. Oh no. Yep. Nostalgia, man. Nostalgia. They are the movies I watched. I think there was a couple more, but we're not going to talk about them. I think there was like one other Korean movie which was okay. It was the one that came out on Netflix. I'll put a picture of it up here. The main reason why I watched it was because it had Jin Young from GOT7 in it, who's also in loads of cool Korean dramas like The Devil Judge and Yumi's Cells. Yeah, it was like very generic. It was annoying actually. It was so like American generic action movie that it annoyed me because I was like, oh man, you can count on Korean cinema to sort of twist things, but it was a Netflix movie, so it was just like pandering to a particular audience. It left it open for a sequel. Will I watch a sequel? Yes, because Jin Young's in it, but it didn't have the particular flavour that I wanted, like the sort of subversion of genre stereotypes. So I was kind of disappointed with that. I can't remember what other films I watched, but there was probably more. Who knows? But anyway, on to television shows. Moon Knight. Oh, Stephen Grant is so precious. And then episode 5 happened. Please tell me he's okay. I love him so much. Like, his dodgy British accent, his can-do attitude. Like, when he explores the Egyptian temple, I think it was episode 3 or 4, and he's just getting so excited. It's like, yes, live your best life. But damn, Oscar Isaac is acting the shit out of this character, and I am in love. I think it's brilliant, and I'm really excited to see where they go next with the character. And I read an article the other day talking about how much impact that Moon Knight could have. I can't remember what it was on, but it was saying about how introducing the Egyptian pantheon could have like a lot of sort of knock-on effects for the rest of the MCU. And one thing they mentioned was Blade, about how like one of the gods in the Egyptian pantheon that's in the MCU could be sort of an origin story for vampires. I loved the Wesley Snipes movies when I was a kid. Yes, very strange thing for a kid to watch. The opening scene of Blade still lives rent-free in my mind. I was a kid when I watched this. I think we were around our grandparents or something. I was young. Totally inappropriate. But the rave scene, when the blood starts coming from the ceiling, still lives in my mind. I swear I've got like 2 very different personalities bubbling inside of me. There's like the sweet sort of fantasy person that loves nature and elves and things like that, and then there's like the hardcore bitch that likes vampires, techno music, blood, gore, like hardcore, like long leather coats, Blade style / Matrix style. It's strange. I'm like a weird concoction of things. But anyway, I can't believe they're going to be shooting the new Blade this year with Mahershala Ali. Fucking can't wait. Anyway, we're still talking about Moon Knight. Don't know why we're talking about Blade. I'm just too excited, to be honest. It's so bizarre, beautiful, weird, cool. But I must admit, there is a TV show that I've loved even more this month. And it is a Korean drama. And it's been a while since I've really, really enjoyed a Korean drama, and that is My Liberation Notes, which is on Netflix. It's like a slice of life drama. It follows 3 siblings who live in the countryside and commute to Seoul for work, and then a random stranger that works for their father, and it's about them all sort of encountering each other. But it just, I don't know, like, it's so comforting to watch because it's just slow, beautiful, meandering, and it's just about life again. About sort of, I don't know, like, they're all dissatisfied with their existence, because all they do really is get up in the morning, rush to get to work, go to work, then come home, have a couple of beers or something, and then go to sleep. So it's like the sort of repetition of working life. And then at the weekend, they also help out on their father's farm. So it's just like, when do these characters get time to be themselves and to sort of break free from the monotony of existence? Hence why it's called My Liberation Notes or /diary. I think like the direct Korean translation would be My Liberation Diary. So it's about them finding the freedom to blossom into people outside of this existence. But yeah, like this show, man, it's just sweet, funny, and just so real, and I love Korean dramas like that. Like, some of my favourite ones are One Spring Night and Something in the Rain. So it feels very much of that ilk. So if you really enjoyed those dramas, you have to check this one out, because it's just that sort of soft beauty of just characters growing together. The main reason why I started watching this show is because it has Son Soo-koo in it, who was in Sense8, which is one of my all-time favourite shows. Love that so much. And so when I found out he was in a new show and it's on Netflix, I was like, oh, yes, gotta watch it. But, it's so good. And he plays like the mysterious character and he does it so well. But yeah, it's brilliant. Love it. Literally, every Saturday and Sunday I'm like, I need to watch this. That's when you know a show's really good. When it comes out weekly and you stick to the weekly schedule. You don't wait to catch up with it all in one, like to binge it. You literally wait for it each week and look forward to it. So that's what makes My Liberation Notes special, is that I will watch it every weekend as soon as I can. So I think that's the end of the video. Awkward. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you've been reading and watching this month. And here's to May. Let's do more reading. Hopefully. And I will see you again soon. Bye bye.